Hello and welcome to video 6 of 10 in my Python 3 crash course. Today we're going to learn about functions. A function is a block of code that is reusable and can perform a task. Let me show you how you can create a function and use one. Alright, so let me teach you how to create a function. So to start, we need to use the def keyword in order to define our function. Then we create a name for our function. So for this function, I want to create a greeting so that whenever you use the function, it will print a greeting to a user. So let's call this greet. And then we use parentheses. In between these parentheses would be our parameters. But for right now, let's not worry about them. I'll teach you them next. So we can leave that blank if we want to. Then we're going to finish it with a colon. Now in here is where we want to write the code that runs whenever we call this function. So let's create a print statement that says hello, and done. We've created a function. So once you run your code, nothing's gonna happen because the function isn't called yet. What calling the function does is you're basically telling it to run. So in order to call the function, you need to write its name and then in the parentheses, and if there are any parameters, you need to fill them in. But we don't have any, so we can just leave that blank. And as you can see, now it runs because we called the function. Okay, this function is a bit basic, so let's make it better with some parameters. So let's go back to the parentheses from earlier. And let's create a parameter called name. So a parameter is basically a variable that will be given a value once you call it. So for right now, it's just name, but once we call it, then it will have an actual value. So let's go ahead and use name. So we can use it like a variable. So we can just have hello and then plus name. And then it'll say, or we need to add a space. Then it will say hello and then whatever the name is. But how do we give the name a value? Well, when we call our function, we have to put something in between these parentheses as well. The value given to a parameter is called an argument. So the difference between a parameter and argument, the parameter is the thing that is defined in the function. This is the parameter. And whatever value you give it in here is the argument. So let's go ahead and give name a value. So let's go with Sam as an example. Then once I run our code, it'll say hello Sam. Let's try something else. Code like a pro. It will say hello code like a pro. So you can give it whatever value you want. And it's reusable, so you can call it twice. And you can give different names. It will change the value. So if I did code like a pro then Sam, it will just change the value of name for each time it's called. Right here. Let me show you a quick example where you can use multiple parameters. So let me create a function that adds two numbers. So let's call this add, and then let's have the numbers be A and B. And then we'll have this function print A plus B. And then once we call our function with two different numbers, then once we run our code, it will add the two numbers and give us 8. So in order to have multiple parameters, we can just create a parameter, a comma, then another parameter, and you can add as many commas as you want and basically have like a list of parameters. And then whenever you call it, you also do the same thing. You just give a value or an argument, then a comma, argument, and so on until you fill in every parameter. Arguments have 4 different types. They are positional arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments, and arbitrary arguments. We're only going to learn about the first 3 because arbitrary arguments are a bit complicated, but I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to learn more about them. So let me start by showing you what positional arguments are. We have already been using positional arguments throughout this video. So what a positional argument is when we define our values for our parameters, we need to put them in a specific order. So I created a multiply function here that multiplies a and b, and once you call it, the first argument you need to put down will define a, and the second one you put down will define b. So whenever you define an argument, it will define it in the order that the parameters are listed. Now let me show you what a keyword argument is. So with positional arguments, the order mattered when we defined our arguments. But with keyword arguments, we don't have to have a specific order. This is because we put in our arguments a little differently. This time, we explicitly state that age equals 41 rather than just saying 41. So if I were to take these definitions out, then it would think that the name is 41 and that the age is LeBron. But obviously it's the other way around. So in order to tell Python that, we need to explicitly say it since it's in a different order. And that's how we use keyword arguments. Keyword arguments are useful, even though we could just put them in the right order, keyword arguments are still useful because the function calling, when you call a function, that line could be very far away from the line where you actually define the function. So when someone reads your code, they might not know what the arguments are. They might not know which one is the name, which one is the age. So if we use keyword arguments and actually define it, then it would be easier for other people to read your code. Finally, we have default arguments. So in order to show you this, I'll go back to the greet function example from the beginning of the video. So let me create that again. And this time we'll create name and then have it print hello name. Right? And then let's just call it over here with Sam again and quotation marks. So now this will obviously print hello Sam. But what if someone didn't define an argument? What would happen? Let's go ahead and take it out. It will give us an error because it is required to define an argument. But what if you want to make it optional? What if you want to make it so that people don't have to put in their name? Well, you can do that with default arguments. So if we go up to our parameter here and write equals guest, I spelled it wrong, guest. What this does is it gives an alternative value to name if name is not defined. So if we just don't give an argument, then it will say hello guest. But if we do give one, then it will just change the value to whatever argument you put in. Alright, so let me show you what the return keyword is. So what if instead of printing out our result for a function, we wanted to get a result? So let's create a function called add and have our parameters be a and b. Then we're gonna, instead of printing, we're gonna return a plus b. Oh, can't type a plus. Alright. Now once I call the function with 5 and 7, then it doesn't print anything. Let's try it with different numbers. 3, 9. Nothing again. So what's the use of a return keyword then? Well, basically, you can use that value anywhere you want. So let's say after you use the add function, you wanted to multiply it with another number. So let's create a variable called final num. And then let's have add 4 and 8, and then multiply that by 3. And then let's print final number. As you can see, it gives us 36 because 4 plus 8 is 12, and 12 times 3 is 36. But what if we had a print here instead of a return? Then this obviously wouldn't work, because it would just print a number instead of giving you a number. So this function would have no value. When we use the return keyword, we're actually giving it a value. So add 4, 8 equals 12, but if we use the print, then it will just equal nothing. So it kind of works like a variable if you use the return keyword, like you can print it. And it will give you a result, but you can't print anything. That's all for today's video, but I don't really have an exercise for you, so you can just create a function, add a lot of things inside that function, such as loops, if statements. You can even put a function inside of a function and see what happens. Do whatever, put it in the comments. I'll look at it and tell you if it's good or not, or what you could improve. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you did, and write a comment below if you have any suggestions or questions, and I will answer them, or someone else who is experienced will answer them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.